So over the past few months, it's no surprise that the gym industry has been beat down, pulverized, dragged through the mud repeatedly, almost as if to add insult to injury, and generally speaking around the globe, it's been pretty much gut punched. And the unfortunate thing is that this was very much outside of almost anybody's control, considering the fact that few people could have ever planned for this type of situation. In fact, I don't really think anybody could have planned for this exact situation in consideration of what mandates were put in place across the world. It's been very challenging to watch a lot of my friends who are fellow gym owners struggle through this chaos. It's been overwhelming to watch peers who I may not have a close relationship with, I may not have rapport with, but we share a passion. We share a purpose. And there's something to be said for understanding the pain and the process to some degree that was required to build an individual's dream. When you have a similar passion, when you have a similar purpose, there's almost a degree of respect, unspoken respect, that is just understood. Because you know about the late nights. You know about the financial issues. You know about the no days off. You know about the difficulties and the hurdles that were inevitably faced along what would be, in a sense, a very similar path of growth. And recognizing that and seeing individuals who have spent, not just years, some people over a decade or multiple decades building these visions and these dreams of what they wanted to create in terms of a gym or gym community or training center or facility or a sanctuary for some of them. And to see that crumble while they almost couldn't do anything much. In hindsight, as 2020, of course, we could argue that everyone could have done something, but the reality is when the majority of an individual's business just has to stop operating, watching it fall apart for other people is overwhelming. I can't even begin to fathom what must have been going through the heads of these individuals. My heart hurts and goes out to those individuals, and even thinking about it right now, I don't have words to describe watching so many of these gyms who may not get through this or who already have not been able to get through this chaos and what looks to be a potentially rocky foreseeable future. Now, through the past few months, I've been very fortunate to connect with other gym owners and gym operators and coaches in management style positions all over the world, really. And it's been humbling to not only connect with these individuals who, under normal circumstances, our paths likely would have never crossed. And to develop relationships with these individuals has been incredible. And it's interesting because almost every single conversation that has taken place, it's gotten to a position where it was like, well, what did you do to prepare for this? Or what do you think is helping you get through this to the other end, or that's allowing you to see the light on the other end of the tunnel? And obviously everybody has had their different approaches, and they're all in different positions, not just in terms of their strengths and their approaches to coaching and working with clients and their online presence and their in-person communities and where they're at in the growth of their actual business model. But I figured I would share with you the 3 foundational factors that I truly believe are the primary reasons that I was able to navigate this chaos, which there's really no better word to describe the past few months. So I've never actually really taken the time to go into detail on these factors, and I'll keep this video as short, succinct as possible. But I do believe that they're interesting points to note, because I know even just talking with some of my peers, they were caught off guard by some of the approaches that I had taken. So the first factor, and I'm gonna list these three factors in order of what I believe to be the most valuable in terms of its contribution to our future growth. The first one is no business debt. Now, from day one, a lot of people don't realize, even opening the doors to this place, I had been saving equipment up. Okay, as I worked as a personal trainer, I would use the money I had made and I would purchase pieces of equipment in advance in preparation for my ultimate dream. As well, I saved up enough so that when it was time to actually move forward and open the doors, all of the equipment that I would need in terms of bigger ticket items like squat racks and cable pull downs and cable rows and dumbbell racks and flooring and things along those lines, I made sure that I had the ability to pay for all of it in cash on day one. So that, as well as the fact that moving forward, I only bought pieces of equipment as I had the disposable cash to purchase them, has put me in a very powerful position as a gym owner. The reason why is because when a situation like this occurs, what becomes almost, it's definitely overwhelming, but in some cases an insurmountable challenge, is the note that people carry on their equipment, right? If you're not able to utilize any of your equipment through this chaos in terms of, like, you've got a row of 20 treadmills, you're still paying a note on those pieces of equipment unless you're able to negotiate some sort of deal with the lender. But when you own your equipment outright, that does allow you to operate relatively lean for whatever the foreseeable future dictates that you'll have to remain in this position for. And like 3-4 months of closure, that's a long period of time where if you have a bi-weekly note or a monthly note coming out on your equipment with interest, that's really going to drain your accounts, especially when your ability to monetize what you have is very limited. So this approach, obviously it can be argued that this is not the most optimal approach to take in terms of leveraging debt to build a business. But it's what made me the most comfortable, right? I don't like having high stress. I have enough stress as is. And for me, I knew what made me sleep best at night from day one was ensuring that I didn't owe anybody anything for the equipment that was in the building. Now, obviously, this contributing factor made sure that my overhead was not as high. So that moving into a situation in which we were told to close our doors for the foreseeable future, there wasn't a lot of cash flowing out to pay for things like this. Now, the second factor, which in a sense is almost as powerful as this one, was having a full year, 12 months of operating costs liquid. Basically, having enough cash ready to rock to go for a full year making $0. Having that cushion available where if I was unable to do absolutely anything for that entire 365 days, I would still be able to keep the business afloat. Now, the third factor, you're going to understand why this is a trifecta now. The third factor kind of wraps all this together, and it'll make sense why these three contributing factors are game changers. The third thing is I've been in the online coaching game before online coaching was considered cool. Well before it was considered a necessity for trainers coaches and gym owners alike. Now, don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean that I was doing online training 15, 20 years ago when the OGs of the online training industry were in full tilt. Not the Excel documents and spreadsheets sent via email, although that is still a commonly used approach. I didn't start back when that first started, but for the past 5 years, I've been learning to navigate the online coaching world. Now, understanding this, when I first started at online coaching, I was really bad at it. And it was generally uncharted waters. A lot of people didn't really have much to say about it. So over the years, I hired some very competent coaches that assisted with me becoming very proficient in navigating what was at the time, like I said, uncharted territory. Nobody really knew what they were doing, and there wasn't efficient or effective practices that were considered premium. So knowing as much, I became well versed in the online coaching world before it became cool, and as I said before, it became a necessity. And I even based the entire gym model off of a hybrid coaching model, which meant people not only did one-on-one coaching, but they also had their programming and habits structured and laid out for them as a part of the services that they purchased. So this became very valuable because when gyms closed, so many people made a pivot to the online world. Well, that wasn't too challenging for us to do because we already were in the online world. So that wasn't the challenge that we faced. And so this was very valuable because now what we had to do was ensure that our clients had workouts that they could do at home, and the unexpected hurdle for us was the fact that so many of them went from a well-equipped training facility down to one band and a dumbbell from 1974. But nevertheless, where this becomes very valuable is the clients that continued on with their training, we were still able to maintain a percentage of our usual monthly revenue. We didn't just bottom out to zero. Now, we still bled a lot in terms of cash for the first month or two because there was so much uncertainty and so much unknown and trying to adjust and quickly manage so many different overwhelming factors, but we were still able to maintain a certain percentage of our revenue, which not everybody was able to do in the gym industry. So I guess in a sense, we could take this and we can put revenue retention. But then the second valuable aspect of online coaching is we were actually able to reach out and pursue new revenue because a significant portion of the client market, if you will, of people who require professional coaching services increased dramatically because so many people needed accountability and motivation and structure, and they weren't used to having such a limited access to equipment. So it was like, I don't know what to do when I don't have all these fancy machines. What do I do? Or I don't know what to do when I don't have access to weights at all. What body weight exercises can I do? And what can I do that's relative to my individual capacity? So the individuals who were interested in coaching grew. This allowed us to position ourselves efficiently because we understood the online coaching model to a much higher degree than most. So we were able to position ourselves as premium professionals in an online market where generally people were still trying to figure out how to use software, and they were kind of clunky with their approach to delivering their services to their clients. So we had a system already in play that we could then build upon and make even better. So as you can see, these three foundational factors, not only individually, but collectively, were power players for me. They saved the future of what I do. Having no debt on equipment, having a year of operating costs ready to rock and roll for an extreme situation that we are literally facing today, and already set up to not only retain revenue in this chaos, but to pursue new revenue in an industry that was looking for the exact services that we were able to deliver. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an insight into how I positioned the business to handle this type of chaos. Even though there was no way I could have guessed that this is what we would be facing, I would have never guessed that we wouldn't be allowed to operate the gym itself. I at least figured at some point something crazy was going to happen, because generally it always does. There's quite a few other questions that I'm going to be covering in videos moving forward, so make sure you subscribe or follow depending on what social media platform you might be consuming this content on. But if you found it informative and you have specific questions that you would like me to cover, whether they're specifically online coaching related, or if they're gym related, or if they're just kind of sales and business related when it comes to working with clients, send them my way and I'll make sure to cover them in an upcoming video.